If you go to voting list 33, that is a consent calendar, which embodies, Stacy, just so everybody's clear, these are bills, and I'll let you describe what the bills are. They're all.
So these bills are all election bills that have Senate cross files that are identical to the Senate cross files and that were passed unanimously in this committee.
Okay, everybody got it? Yep. Okay, with that said, voting list 33 consent calendar, would anybody want to make a motion on that? And actually, could you see if the vice chair is around too? Okay. All in favor of consent calendar number 33, raise your hand. All opposed? Carries unanimously. Now we've got, what we do, a couple of concurrences. Move on here. So, Stacy, let's start with you. You have one concurrence.
Senate Bill 369, Public Libraries Automated External Defibrillator Program. SB 369 requires specified libraries to place automated external defibrillators in certain areas of the library and maintain the functionality of the AED. The House amendments are technical and make the House and Senate bills identical.
And the Senate cross file was, who was it?
Senator Watson.
Yeah. Okay, Senator Watson. What do you think?
I'm sorry.
Okay, we're on, it's a concurrence, so it's not on the list. It's a cross file of your bill dealing with.
It's Senate Bill 369, your AED bill.
And so these amendments will simply conform the House bill to your bill that we already passed.
No, this is saying that the House amendments to Senate Bill 369. We agree with because we passed those amendments to the House bill the other day.
Correct, I stand corrected.
Yes, what Stacy said.
Okay, so you're going to move to concur. You're moving to concur? Okay, second. So there's a second from Senator Augustine. All in favor of the motion to concur. What's that number? House Bill?
Senate Bill 369.
Senate Bill 369.
Yes.
That motion carries. Okay, April, we'll go to your concurrences.
I have two. The first is Senate Bill 1028, Natural Resources Vessels Carbon Monoxide Warning Labels. Senate Bill 1028 prohibits a person from operating a certain vessel manufactured after July 31st, 2007 on the waters of the state unless the vessel has carbon monoxide warning labels affixed in certain locations. The House amendments conform the bill to House Bill 1322 as already passed by this committee. Specifically, they apply the bill to gasoline-powered vessels that include accommodation spaces, swim platforms, or aft lounging areas.
Okay, we kind of had this conversation yesterday on the cross file. Everybody understand we're sort of conforming the bills to what we sent out? Is there a motion? We could, anybody?
I move it.
Okay, motion from Senator Carrozza, second from the vice chair. Discussion. You looked a little, you looked anguished. Okay, I don't want to presuppose anything. Okay, all that said, there's a motion to concur on the table. All in favor? Raise your hand. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. April?
Okay. Senate Bill 253, and I would encourage you to maybe pull this one up in your floor system if you want to take a look at the amendments. Controlled Hazardous Substance Facility Permit, Research Facilities, Chemical Warfare Material Requirements. You may recall Senate Bill 253 is a departmental bill from the Department of Commerce. The bill exempts the incineration of chemical warfare materials at a Department of Defense designated research facility from certain special requirements if the incineration is done for research, development, or demonstration purposes under an RD&D permit issued by the Department of the Environment. So the House amendments make the issuance of an RD&D permit under the bill contingent on the development of a certain emergency preparedness plan. Specifically, that plan must make adequate provisions to support and fund the development of a plan that demonstrates the capability of evacuating, sheltering, and protecting persons from the largest area at risk from a maximum credible event, which is defined to mean a hypothetical worst-case explosion, fire, or toxic agent release. The plan must enumerate the training, coordination, equipment necessary for state and local emergency response personnel and community members to respond to a release. And it must be developed with adequate public participation and presented at a public meeting in each county potentially impacted by a maximum credible event. My understanding is with these additional amendments, all the opposition has been removed.
Yeah, let me just say I was the floor leader on this bill, and the bill has been modified to make sure that everybody's on board. We had the Assistant Secretary of Defense actually come down here. This is a bill from the administration, so it's kind of a national defense research to deal with weapons of mass destruction. Apparently, Aberdeen Proving Ground is like the only place in the United States can actually do that sort of research, so it's a pretty important bill. So with that, is there a motion to concur on the table? Okay, Vice Chair Kagan, Senator Attar, any discussion about this piece of legislation, the motion to concur? Okay, all in favor of the motion to concur, raise your hand. All opposed, motion carries unanimously. April?
That's it.
Okay, Devin, you got some concurrence? Okay.
Senate Bill 175, Public Safety, Fuel Gas Piping Systems and Corrugated Stainless Steel Tubing, Prohibitions and Study. This bill prohibits the sale, transfer, distribution of non-arc resistant jacketed corrugated stainless steel tubing. A person who violates this prohibition is subject to a civil penalty of up to $1,000. In addition, the bill establishes a civil penalty of up to $1,000 for a violation of a provision of the current law that prohibits the use of non-arc resistant jacketed CSST in specified construction and piping systems. The bill also requires the Office of State Fire Marshal to conduct a study and make recommendations related to preventing fire hazards associated with commonly used fuel gas piping systems, including gas piping and CSST, in residential and commercial buildings. The House amendments strike language relating to non-conductive jacketed corrugated stainless steel tubing and add the Department of Labor and the Office of the State Fire Marshal to jointly conduct the study. This change conforms the bill to House Bill 2222 as passed the committee and was on the floor today.
Yeah, okay, we obviously had this conversation yesterday. We've talked about this, and this will just conform the Senate bill to the action we took yesterday and sent that bill to the floor. Any questions? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to concur? Senator Gallion, second from Vice Chair Kagan. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Motion to concur, raise your hand. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next, let's move to voting list number 32. And let's take up, we've got, I think, two bills that we're second on. So why don't we start, Devin, with House Bill 482 and Finance Committee. Let's take some action and hope possibly send it back to the Finance Committee from Delegate Harrison. House Bill 482, Devin.
House Bill 482, Occupational Licensing and Certification, Criminal History Predetermination Review Process. As amended, House Bill 482 allows an applicant for a license who has a criminal history to file a request with the Departments of Agriculture or Environment or Human Services or Labor for a predetermination review to see if that prospective licensee would be disqualified for a license based upon that criminal history. The department shall use existing resources to conduct the review. EEE is secondary on the bill, and the bill passed Finance 11-0.
So we have a product from the Finance Committee that passed 11-0. Any discussion or questions? Is there a motion to favorable on the product that was sent to us by the Finance Committee? Okay, Delegate Senator Attar is favorable. Senator Washington second. Okay, all in favor of House Bill 482, raise your hand. All opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Let's go down to Delegate Ebersol, House Bill 658, Stacy.
House Bill 658, Juvenile Services Education Board alterations. This bill alters the Juvenile Services Education Board by staggering the terms of appointed members, imposing a 2 consecutive term limit on appointed members, authorizing the Secretary of Higher Education and the State Superintendent of Schools to each assign a designee to serve on the board, reducing the number of required meetings from once per month to 10 times per year and not more than once per month, and authorizing a majority of members, the chair of the board, or the Secretary of Juvenile Services to call special meetings of the board that do not count toward the monthly limit. There are no amendments, and JPR voted this bill unanimously.
Okay, we have a product from JPR, unanimous, House Bill 658. Any questions for Stacy? Okay, favorable by Senator Carrozza. Is there a second? Second from Senator Brooks. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor? House Bill 658, raise your hand. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. You know how the Senate President did opposite world in reverse? Why don't we do that? Instead of starting at the top, let's go to start with Speaker Jones's bill at the very end of the calendar, and we're going to work our way up this time. Change things up. Okay, let's go to House Bill 1547 from Delegate Adrian Jones, a.k.a. Speaker Jones. Devin?
House Bill 1547, Barbers and Cosmetologists, License Qualifications, Domestic Violence Awareness Training. This bill requires the State Board of Barbers and the State Board of Cosmetologists to require as a qualification for licensure an applicant to complete 1 hour of training in domestic violence awareness. The Maryland Department of Labor must develop and administer the training, which must be offered to each applicant or licensee free of charge, in person or virtually. The training must include guidance on recognizing the signs of domestic violence, strategies to navigate conversations with clients who may be victims of domestic violence, how to listen to and communicate with victims of domestic violence, and connecting clients with resources and support groups for victims of domestic violence. The boards must require an individual who holds a license or a limited license prior to the bill's effective date to complete the training as a requirement for the next renewal or license or limited license. There are amendments which were in yesterday's packet. Apologies, I do not have them in today's packet, but those amendments were on page 19 of yesterday's packet. But what the amendments do is they are offered by the Department of Labor. They require the department to approve the domestic violence training, not actually conduct the domestic violence training. With these amendments, the department supports the bill, and it does reduce the fiscal note associated with the bill.
Well, we've got amendments that reduce fiscal note and now labor supportive. Questions on the amendments? Okay, we have a motion from the vice chair on these amendments. Is there a second? Second from Senator Brooks. Just on the amendments, all in favor of the amendments, raise your hand. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. House Bill 1547 as amended is before us. Is there a motion? Okay, Senator Brooks moves the Speaker's bill, second from Vice Chair Kagan. House Bill 1547 as amended. I'm sorry, Senator Washington.
The amendments are coming from Speaker Jones?
The amendments come from the Department of Labor, and the Speaker supports the amendments.
Okay, great. I just wanted to clarify. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll take a vote now on the motion favorable on the bill as amended. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed? The motion carries unanimously on House Bill 1547. House Bill 1524, Wacomico County, Stacy, local delegation bill.
House Bill 1524, Wycomico County Board of Education, election of members, student member, and compensation. This bill adds at least one non-voting student member to the Wycomico County Board of Education and authorizes the board to grant a scholarship to a student member. Additionally, the bill requires that beginning with the general election in 2026, the 7 elected members of the board must each be elected from one of the 7 councilmanic districts in the county. As a result, there are no at-large members of the board under the bill. The bill also authorizes the Wycomico County Council to set a salary greater than the current annual compensation amounts required for elected members, which is $3,700, and the board chair, which is $4,000. Elected and student members are entitled to reimbursement for travel and other expenses as provided by the county board's budget upon submission of vouchers in accordance with rules and regulations adopted by the board. A student member is not entitled to any compensation or payment beyond reimbursement for expenses incurred in their capacity as a board member and the scholarship as authorized by the county board. There are no amendments, and the local letter has been received.
Senator Carosa, okay. Senator Simon-Ayer moves favorable on this bill. Senator Carosa? Okay, any further discussion on the local bill? Okay, all in favor of House Bill 1524 from Wycomico County, raise your hand. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. House Bill 1253, Devin, from the Speaker.
House Bill 1253, Department of Social and Economic Mobility, established. This bill creates the Department of Social and Economic Mobility as a principal department in the executive branch. The bill establishes a related special fund and transfers to the department all staff and funding from the following agencies: the Governor's Office of Small, Minority, and Women Business Affairs, the Office of Social Equity in the Maryland Cannabis Administration, and the Office of Minority Business Enterprises in the Maryland Department of Transportation. This agency, the Department of Social and Economic Mobility, is the successor now to all three of those agencies. There are no amendments. The bill passed Appropriations 16-7 and passed the House 101-37. Budget and Tax has approved the fiscal note.
Okay, Senator Washington is moving favorable. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Senator Brooks. Discussion. Okay, on this one, let's do a roll call, given the vote over in the House. Lemuria, just it's roll call on the bill favorable, clean, no amendments.
All right,
House Bill 1253.
Senator Kagan?
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Augustine? Senator Augustine, yes. Senator Gallion?
No.
Senator Gallion, no. Senator Watson? Senator Watson, yes. Senator Attar?
Yes.
Senator Attar, yes. Senator Brooks?
Yes.
Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Carosa?
No.
Senator Carosa, no. Senator Hester? Senator Hester, yes. Senator Washington? Senator Washington, yes. Senator Simon-Ayer? Senator Simon-Ayer, no. Senator Feldman?
Yes, bill carries 8-3. House Bill 1228, April, from the Montgomery County delegation, local bill.
House Bill 1228, Department of Commerce, Montgomery County Agricultural Reserve Study. This local bill requires the Department of Commerce, in coordination with specified state, local, and nonprofit entities, to study economic development in and the tourist and visitor economy of the Montgomery County Agricultural Reserve. By June 30th, 2026, Commerce must report its findings and recommendations to the members of the Montgomery County delegation. There are no amendments. We have a local letter.
Okay, any discussion or questions on the local Montgomery bill? Is there a motion?
Favorable.
Favorable from Vice Chair Kagan, second from Senator Augustine. All in favor, House Bill 1228, raise your hand. All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Stacy, House Bill 1207, another local bill from Montgomery.
House Bill 1207, Montgomery County Board of Education Student Member Compensation. This bill alters compensation procedures for the student member of the Montgomery County Board of Education. Although the bill does not alter compensation amounts for elected members, the bill specifies that the future salary increases for elected members must take effect at the beginning of the term of office and may not increase during the term of office. There are no amendments, and we have received a local letter.
Okay, got a motion from the Vice Chair, second from Senator Augustine. House Bill 1207, clean. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Devin, House Bill 1162 from Delegate Stein.
House Bill 1162, Heating, Ventilation, Air Conditioning, or Refrigeration Contractors, Equipment Sales. This bill prohibits a person from knowingly selling or offering to sell heating, ventilation, air conditioning, or refrigeration equipment to another person unless the individual purchasing the equipment holds a master license, a master restricted license, or a limited license, or employs an individual with a license issued by the State Board of Heating, Ventilation, Air Conditioning, and Refrigeration Contractors to provide or assist in providing those services. operates a business that resells HVACR equipment to individuals licensed by the board or is not required to be licensed by the board under specific provisions of state law. This requirement does not apply to a person who sells construction materials other than materials involved in the installation of HVACR equipment and derives less than 25% of the person's revenues from the sale of HVACR equipment. The bill also establishes requirements for sellers to provide notice to purchasers of HVACR equipment at the time of sale. By January 1, 2026, the board must adopt regulations to carry out the bill's requirements. A person who violates the bill's requirements is subject to a civil penalty of up to $1,000 for a first violation or $5,000 for a second or subsequent violation. There are no amendments. The bill passed Economic Matters by a vote of 15-5 and the House 101-38.
Question, there's no amendments. So questions for Devin on House Bill 1162? Okay, is there a motion? Favorable from Senator Brooks, second from Senator Kagan. Okay, let's do a roll call, again, given sort of the nature of the vote count in the House. So again, we're on House Bill 1162, clean, no amendments.
All right, Senator
call.
Kagan?
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Augustine? Yes. Senator Augustine, yes. Senator Gallion? Senator Gallion, no. Senator Watson? Senator Watson, yes. Senator Attar? Senator Attar, yes. Senator Brooks? Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Carozza? No. Senator Carozza, no. Senator Hester? Senator Hester, yes. Senator Washington? Yes. Senator Washington, yes. Senator Simonaire? Yes. Senator Simonaire, yes. Senator Feldman? Thank you.
Yes, bill carries 9-2. Let's next move to Devin, House Bill 972.
House Bill-
Cross-file Senate Bill 680.
House Bill 972, Real Estate Commission Continuing Education Requirements Alterations. House Bill 972 is the cross-file to Senate Bill 680. This bill alters several continuing education requirements for the renewal of a license for real estate brokers, associate real estate brokers, and real estate salespersons. Specifically, the bill alters clock hour requirements, course topics, course instructor selection, and course application fees. There's an amendment on yesterday's packet, page 18 of yesterday's packet. That amendment conforms the House bill to the Senate bill that passed to the Senate.
Okay, so we're conforming the House bill to what we've done on the Senate cross-file. Okay, let's just, we could just do it together. Move to conform the bills from Senator Augustine, second from Senator Brooks. All in favor of the motion to conform the bills on House Bill 972, raise your hand. All opposed, motion carries. Let's go to House Bill 888. Stacy from Delegate Fair.
House Bill 888, Education Initial Teacher Certification Qualifications. This bill expands the options for meeting the portfolio-based assessment requirements for an initial teacher certificate by allowing a candidate to qualify through a portfolio-based assessment from a nationally accredited teacher preparation program. There are no amendments.
Okay. Yes, we've got Senator Washington.
I move favorable. I strongly support these. It's been, and it's not subjective. It's a nationally recognized way of having the portfolio. The current methodology is sort of haphazard in terms of allowing for portfolio review. So I would move favorable and support the bill.
Questions? Okay, seeing none. All in favor of House Bill 888, raise your hand. Okay, all opposed? Senator Carozza, do you want? Okay, well, here, let's strike the vote. Let's strike the vote. Senator Carozza, question for Senator Carozza.
And I was following up on Senator Washington's comments. We have the National Certified Board qualifications in the blueprint?
Yeah, Stacy's on this one. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to understand.
So right now, in order to get a teacher license, it says certificate because that's the law, but it's a teacher license, an initial teacher license, your very first one. A teacher has to pass what's called a nationally accredited, a portfolio-based assessment that it comes from a national organization. The problem is that there's, in St. Mary's County, when they offer at their teacher prep program, they have a portfolio-based assessment that their students must take, which is similar to the national one. But they still have to take both because that's what's required in the law, is they have to complete this nationally recognized portfolio-based assessment. So this just says that as long as the portfolio-based assessment is from a nationally accredited teacher preparation program, then the student only has to take one or the other. They don't have to duplicate.
Thank you. I'm a yes.
The student is a student to become a teacher. Right?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Let's just, we had a motion, a second on the table. Okay, any further questions for Stacy? Seeing none, all in favor of House Bill 888, raise your hand. All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Let's next go to you, April, House Bill 857.
House Bill 857, Natural Resources, Pursuing Wounded Deer After Legal Hunting Hours and Using a Light Authorization. This bill allows a person who is authorized by the Department of Natural Resources to hunt deer who wounds a deer during legal hunting hours to pursue and kill the deer after legal hunting hours and to use a light to throw or cast the rays of a spotlight, a headlight, an artificial light, a battery, or any other device while pursuing the wounded deer. The bill requires that the person use only the means authorized for the applicable hunting season or permit to kill the deer. The department must adopt regulations to implement the bill.
Okay, the only thing I'd add, for what it's worth, is DNR has actually sent in a letter of support for the bill. Bill passed, we had no testimony in opposition to the bill, and it did pass the House of Delegates 131-3. Just putting, that's just informational, but it's the kind of issue that we'll do a roll call. I mean, just because I think so. Questions or before we can move favorable on this piece of legislation, House Bill 852. Is there a second from Senator Gallion? Let's do, again, this is a roll call, I think, kind of a topic, so let's do a roll call.
All right, Senator Kagan? Aye. Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Augustine? Yes. Senator Augustine, yes. Senator Gallion?
Yes.
Senator Gallion, yes. Senator Watson? Yes. Senator Watson, yes. Senator Attar? Senator Attar, yes. Senator Brooks? Yes. Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Carozza? Yes. Senator Carozza, yes. Senator Hester? Yes. Senator Hester, yes. Senator Washington? Yes. Senator Washington, yes. Senator Simoneau? Senator Simoneau, yes. Senator Feldman?
Yes, bill carries unanimously. Let's go to, yeah, I'm sorry, yes, Senator Gallion.
Could we also vote the cross-file Senator Bailey, Senate Bill 100?
Sure. Okay, so do you want to move Senate Bill 100?
Yes.
Okay, a motion from Senator Gallion, a second from Senator Washington. All in favor of cross-file Senate Bill 100, raise your hand.
That's a favorable with amendments.
Oh, favorable with amendments. Yeah, okay, everybody understand, it's same bill with amendments. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, Senate Bill 100 carries unanimously. Let's go to Chair Atterbury here, House Bill 782. Stacy.
House Bill 782, Study on Detecting Deadly Weapons in Public and Middle and high schools, sorry. The bill requires the Maryland Center for School Safety to study how best to detect deadly weapons on public middle and high school properties and have schools rapidly report the detection of a deadly weapon to law enforcement. By December 1, 2025, the center must issue an interim report on its findings to the presiding officers and selected committees of the General Assembly in a manner that does not jeopardize school safety. By December 1, 2026, the center must issue a final report to the same entities. The bill takes effect June 1, 2025 and terminates on June 30th, 27. There is one amendment offered in your packet on page 16 from Senator Hester, and this amendment would require the center to request any available assessment of technologies evaluated under the Act to analyze certain factors.
Okay, Senator Hester, do you want to, anything on the, just on the amendment? Okay, yeah, let's take questions on the underlying bill or on the amendment?
No, on the amendment. Not on
Okay.
the bill. Just on the amendment, Senator. Did you check with the House folks on this? Just because we're like at the very end here.
So I asked the chair about this during the hearing. I just got, I have not actually sent her, the chair the language. I can do that.
I just think that makes
Yeah.
sense just because like.
We'll do that right now.
We can,
Oh, sorry, I'm just getting information that the staff has confirmed that it is okay.
perfect.
Okay.
Very good.
With that,
Great
with their,
staff, man.
yeah, with that very prompt confirmation, Senator Hester, you moved an amendment. Is there the second on the Hester amendment?
Second.
Second from Senator Augustine. Okay, all in favor of the Hester Amendment, raise your hand. Okay. All opposed, the amendment carries. We have House Bill 782 as amended in front of us. Is there a motion? Senator Brooks is most favorable. Senator Augustine second. Favor of House Bill 782 as amended, raise your hand. All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Now we can go back to page 1, starting with Delegate Guyton, House Bill 747, April.
House Bill 747, Environment, On-Site Wastewater Systems, Requirements for Inspection and Pumping Services, and Extension of Sunset and Implementation Dates. Senate Bill 747 delays the implementation of certain requirements under current law regarding the regulation and licensure of on-site wastewater service providers by 2 years. Bill also establishes new inspection and pump-out requirements applicable to certain landlords and purchasers of residential real property served by on-site wastewater systems. These new requirements take effect July 1st, 2028.
No amendments? Nothing. Okay, it's clean, no amendments. Senator Watson moves favorable on House Bill 747. Second from Senator Brooks. Discussion, questions? Yeah, Senator Gallion.
So just looking back, we've had this a couple times and held it, right? So I think this is the bill we had questions that some of the stuff that you normally work this out like through negotiation with closing, this is that bill, right? And
Questions?
okay. So as it came over, I was just looking through the testimony, like the realtors that were unfavorable. I wonder if any of these, so there's been nothing done to negate any of their opposition, I'm assuming, if there's no amendments?
I believe, was that testimony in E&T as opposed to Triple E?
I was just looking at 747, the House bill.
Right, but the testimony that you're looking at?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the House amended the bill before sending it over. All of the testimony that was submitted to Triple E was favorable.
Okay.
So I believe the issues that were pointed out when the bill was heard in E&T were addressed through the E&T amendments.
Do we have we've got a vote count just out of E&T, just so we have some context, or on the floor of the House, just so.
Came out of E&T 17-4.
Okay.
On the floor, 130.
Okay, yeah, so just bottom line is there was testimony in opposition in the House committee. Bill was amended. On this side, we don't have any opposition testimony, but that is just some background. Senator Carrozza, since you had mentioned.
Right, I was the one who raised some questions when it was on the voting list earlier, and I want to thank Emily Ranson from Clean Water Action and the Maryland Department of the Environment. The concerns I was raising is what the impact would be, especially with those counties that already have some challenges and are backed up on their permitting process. I did appreciate that some of these deadlines were moved back to July 1st of 2027 and July 1st of 2028. So that's helpful. I did ask the Maryland Department of the Environment for assistance that if these counties are backed up with their permitting, they've provided some assistance in the past and still working through that. So I will be voting no, but I do appreciate that the questions I've raised, there's been an attempt to answer them and to work with us during the interim. So just to let you know, there were questions and there was a response, and I appreciate that.
Okay. Any additional questions before we'll do a roll call on this one. Did we have a motion on this one? I can't recall now. Did we have a motion on this bill? Is there a motion? Yeah. Senator Brooks, second? I can't remember. What's that? Okay, we had a motion and a second. Okay, we'll do a roll call on this piece of legislation. House Bill 747.
All right, Senator Kagan.
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Augustine? Yes. Senator Augustine, yes. Senator Gallion? Yes. Senator Gallion, no. Senator Watson? Yes. Senator Watson, yes. Senator Attar? Yes. Senator Attar, yes. Senator Brooks? Yes. Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Carrozza? No. Senator Carrozza, no. Senator Hester? Senator Hester, yes. Senator Washington? Yes. Senator Washington, yes. Senator Simoneau? No. Senator Simoneau, no. Senator Feldman?
Okay, yes, bill carries 8-3. Let's go up to House Bill 717. April?
House Bill 717, Natural Resources, Public Lands, Acquisition, Staffing, Operations, and Funding. This departmental bill establishes several provisions applicable to the Department of Natural Resources and certain provisions applicable to local governments relating to 1, affiliated foundations, 2, the use of program open space state land acquisition funding, 3, management of newly acquired real property interest, 4, other provisions governing DNR's acquisition of real property interest, 5, a land and property management program, and 6, the use of program open space local funding. There are a couple of amendments in your voting packet. The first one is on page 9. This is simply a technical amendment to fix something, an oversight in the House amendments. Restores language requiring or authorizing a county that has met its land acquisition goals to use up to 90%, to use up to 10% of their program open space grant money. Requires them to match up to 10% of the program open space grant money authorized under the bill. Again, just restoring language that was inadvertently struck. Then there are also amendments on page 11 of the bill, or of the voting packet, from Senator Kagan. These go towards the portion of the bill authorizing the use of these affiliated foundations. Would require the policies developed governing these affiliated foundations to prohibit the granting of naming rights in exchange for contributions. And then also adding language to that section, providing that funds accepted by an affiliated foundation are supplemental to and are not intended to take the place of funding that otherwise would be provided in the annual state operating or capital budget bill for projects or activities of the department.
Senator Kagan, you had, some of these are your amendments, so let's just, okay.
April read and explained them. I think it's important that we don't want to have, welcome to Tesla Park or Exxon, waterway or anything like that. So I think donations are great. I don't think we want to start naming competitions. So that's one piece. And then supplement, not supplanted. So if they raise $1 million, I wouldn't want them to have their budget decreased by $1 million. So it would be value added, money added, and not taken away. So I brought those up with the secretary and his folks when I was meeting with them. They thought those were both helpful additions. And so I'm happy to take questions, but I'd like to move the amendments that are located on page 11.
Okay, everybody take a look at page 11. We have a motion, Senator Kagan. Well, before we do this, a second just on the amendments, and then we'll have a conversation, questions. Second on the Kagan amendments. Second from Senator Attar. So we'll take questions on the amendments, starting with Senator Simoneau.
So, I'm not real familiar with the amendment yet, but about sponsorships. I know with the Department of Transportation, they allow sponsorships of roads. Why is this different?
For cleanup.
No, not for cleanup. It's just like when you go by them, it'll say, maybe they do clean it, but you don't have to clean up. They're not going to take your sign down.
Well, they've got the Aris T. Allen Boulevard or the Governor Ehrlich ICC, stuff like that, but that's this.
No, like when I go
what you
home, we have, Starbucks sponsors this part of the road and things like that.
That's for cleanup. And that's a county. Does
I'm just
anyone
saying
know anything different from that? But I know that we've got the cleanup folks, and it's a portion of the road, and they remove the litter, they sign an agreement, they have to do it a certain number of times each year. I don't even know how many counties still have that program. It used to be really, they used to be really active programs. I think people are smarter about littering now, especially after what we've just passed this year, if you can catch someone on video cameras. But this is different. This would be a permanent installation. It's a little bit of a pay-to-play, and they were not intending to do anything like that, and therefore they had no problems with prohibiting doing something like that.
Okay, we'll take additional questions just on the amendments from Senator Kagan.
I'm just trying to, where is it?
Page 11.
Page 11 of the packet.
No, I mean in the in the bill.
Language, page 14 has the policies prohibiting naming rights, and then the page 15,
Do you want to borrow this?
funds
No?
accepted by an affiliated
What's
foundation.
that, a reprint? No, I have that. I was
oh,
trying
okay. There's a
to understand the
reprint.
context of what we're talking about. I can see that, but it's hard to tell.
Yeah, so the reprint's right behind
Reprint
that.
starts on page, well, the full reprint starts on page 12, but the new language starts on, there's new language added, page 14 and page
It's on 14.
13 and 14
And 15.
underlined.
Yeah,
No,
so
the amendments
Page
are
14
on.
and 15, the underlined language.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so everybody take a look at pages 14 and 15 on the reprint, the underlined language.
So, a discussion? Is that
Yeah,
okay?
yep,
So
absolutely.
this is about the land, I'm just trying to get back to this bill here. Like what, as far as these would be, you're trying to say, let's not have naming rights on the land.
So the idea, as I understand it, and unfortunately I don't have the right folder with me on this bill, but the concept is they want to be able to raise private money to make our parks more disabled accessible. And so rather than using state taxpayer money, maybe the Senator Augustine Foundation wants to give $1 million or something, so it is not their intent that they would rename the park, but we did talk about the acknowledging the donors in some ways, so whether that's a website or whatever. So it doesn't preclude acknowledging them, but I don't know that we want some big, REI park, and, I think it would cheapen our parks, and they agreed with the concept. So we want to raise the money, we want to thank our donors, but not do it with signage and permanent naming.
Is that a local decision?
Sorry?
Is it a local decision?
This is a state park, not a local park, so it would be a state decision. So the counties or municipalities, I guess, could do whatever they wanted. Yeah.
Here, April, you want to,
Yeah, so this is specifically in part of the bill that authorizes what are called affiliated foundations. So we actually do have a lot of this sort of thing in our local parks. If you think of, I can just think locally, we have like the Friends of Quiet Waters Parks. So it tends to be friends of groups. And so you create this friends of group that is then able to go out and do fundraising, and then they use that for projects that sort of supplement the mission of in this case, it would be the state parks. This language that is being proposed by Senator Kagan goes to, there's already part of the bill that says to the extent that one of these affiliated foundations is being set up, they have to come up with some sort of operating policies. Those need to be reviewed by the Ethics Commission, State Ethics Commission. This says that those policies have to prohibit the affiliated foundation from offering in return for accepting a contribution, getting naming rights on something.
here, put your, Ron, you got to put your light on.
As much money as the state needs, why would we preclude that? It seems like something that the state can enter into and then get out of, depending on however they structure the deal. But why would we want to do that?
You're asking her to make a policy. The policymakers are us, so don't, April can't.
All right.
Okay, well, why don't we get all the questions, and we're going to go back to Vice Chair Kagan. So got Senator Hester, then Senator Attar, and then we'll go back to the Vice Chair to maybe respond to.
Yeah, my question was, how broad is naming rights? Like, is it the entire park? Is it the gazebo in the park? Is it the rampway? Is it the bridge? Like, I think that I wouldn't want a whole park called, Friends of So-and-so State Park. Yeah. But if it's like a bridge that makes, it more accessible, then I think that would be okay, if it makes a difference to the donor.
Okay, Senator, well, here, let's, Senator Attar, and then we'll let Vice Chair Kagan respond.
I had two questions. My first was what Senator Hester said, and my second for Senator Kagan is this precluding just a thank you sign or something? It's anything like that, right?
So let me start and see if I can remember them all. Senator Watson, I think if it becomes a disincentive for people to donate, I think it can change, and certainly we could come back and revisit it. I think many people would leave it in their will, and that's a thought. I think there would be corporate interest. I think there are a lot of folks. In terms of just a gazebo or whatever, I think, Emily Wilson, aren't you DNR? Can you? So, and Senator Attar, yeah, I think I'd like to defer to DNR, but Mr. Chair, I think this is good policy. If it's not precisely drafted enough, I'd be happy to try to work on it, acknowledge and incorporate some of the questions if DNR can't solve the problem. And then we can come back and come up with an amendment that makes sense to everybody.
Well, I think let's hear from DNR, and
Yeah.
then we'll make a decision here.
Thank you. Good afternoon, members of the committee. Emily Wilson, Department of Natural Resources. I have not seen the actual amendment itself, and I understand all sides of this argument. We would not want to cheapen the parks, as was mentioned, for sure. We also do want to maintain some ability to recognize donors, and perhaps this language still allows for that.
Okay, why don't we do this? I think, well, do we have questions for DNR? And then I think probably going to have to do some work on this, you know, so, yeah, absolutely.
Because
April.
this is going to a part of the bill that's requiring them to develop policies for these affiliated foundations in consultation, reviewed by Ethics Commission.
So it could be rolled into that?
Well, instead of saying prohibit the granting of naming rights, maybe saying restricting the granting of naming rights, so then the policy is spelling out what that actual limitations would be.
Okay, I see, sort of not respectfully, because I'm a big fan of April, I didn't see like a, you know,
I thought that was.
well, it's okay, that's why we're 11 independent minds here. Okay, here, why don't we put one more question on the table? Let's let this percolate till our next voting session, which could be tomorrow, so let's just,
Gonna have like
what's that?
6 more.
well, we're in session tomorrow. I don't know what we're doing tomorrow yet. I'm just saying, I feel like there's still a little, I don't think we're quite there for people to take a vote. It's feel like we need to do a little more on this one.
Yeah.
Sarah Washington, why don't you have the last word, and then we'll.
I was just sort of aligning myself with what Senator Hester was just saying. I'm not comfortable with a total prohibition because we do need revenue, but I wouldn't want Maryland's M&T State Park. So, but if the gazebo or, you know, the trail or, you know, the Mary Washington, whatever, I think that kind of thing should be okay.
Okay,
So that, to me, could be.
Okay, we'll let Sarah Augustine know, no problem.
If I may,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
go on.
I just thought of
Go on,
something
Emma,
too. Before anything is named in honor or in memory of someone, it does need to go before the Board of Public Works,
Okay.
a state asset.
Okay, well, that's good to know. I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, it's
That'd be current
board
practice,
policy.
current
yes,
policy and
uh-huh.
practice.
Okay.
Board of Public Works.
Okay, yeah, Sarah Augustine, one.
These are foundations, or are the entities, are there any limitations on the entities, the way it's in here?
That's a good question.
So this is allowing these entities to be set up.
The foundations, right? Oh, I'm sorry, what's the framework of the things that can be set up?
It is.
It's within DNR. It's creating a new program. They want to raise $5 million a year.
I understand that, but I was reading, I thought I was reading like affiliated foundation may solicit, for example.
Correct.
So an affiliated foundation, I'm asking about the definition of the affiliated foundation, so it may not be a for-profit company is what I'm trying to say.
No, what this is speaking to is their solicitation of money from.
Outside of the affiliate, so the foundation is being set up to
For Dan.
receive the money.
Solicit money.
Okay, so the
from
foundation is being
donors.
set up to receive the money. Are there any restrictions on who can give to the foundation?
No.
Anybody can give to the foundation?
Yeah.
Okay, that's one question that I have. The second one is, I kind of hear what you guys are saying about naming rights. I kind of do, but then I kind of don't. Like, we have M&T Bank Stadium, and nobody complains about that. I mean, It's what? That's a state asset. I mean, it is. Maryland Stadium Authority, it's our state asset, and it does use naming rights from, so I'm just saying.
Mayor, you got to put your mic on, we're
No,
streaming
I
here.
mean, I think you're also alluding that, like, so any money? Like anybody's money we can put in there?
Okay.
We would accept
Hey,
it
guys,
from any company, any?
Senator Washington,
any
here,
no,
I
I'm
think
just saying
that, well, I think the
perspective.
issue's been framed here. There's some legitimate issues that have been put on the table. Let's just hold this and let's kind of move on, and we'll take this up. I think we all have a sense of the issue, and I think, okay, let's go to, Devin, back to you. House Bill 699, which is a cross-file of Senate Bill 491, which this committee passed unanimously, the cross-file. Devin, so.
House Bill
Delegate Allen.
699, General Provisions, Veterans Benefits, Honorable Discharge. House Bill 699 is the cross-file to Senate Bill 491. This bill, with respect to any state program of benefits, rights, or privileges applicable to a veteran under Maryland law, alters the definition of honorable discharge to include a discharge that may be less than honorable if the Department of Veterans and Military Families determines the discharge should be upgraded based on the criteria established in 38 Code of Federal Regulations, Section 3.12. There is an amendment on page 16 of yesterday's packet. The amendment conforms this bill to the Senate version that this committee passed.
So we passed unanimously the cross-file. Okay. House Bill 699 has an amendment to conform it to Senate Bill 491, which this committee passed unanimously. Is there a motion to conform the bills? Senator Washington, Senator Brooks, second. Okay, all in favor of House Bill 699 with that amendment, raise your hand. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Let's next go to House Bill 586 from Delegate Jones.
Election law, election judges, compensation. This bill establishes that a local board of elections must pay an election judge for each training the election judge completes only after the election judge actually serves an election day or early voting day. In addition, for service as an election judge, the bill authorizes a public school student to both earn hours towards service learning requirement for graduation under the State Board of Education regulations and receive the applicable election judge compensation. There is one amendment on page 8 of your packet. When adopting this amendment, it would conform it to Senate Bill 534 as passed by the Senate. This amendment allows a public school student to either earn service learning hours or receive compensation.
Okay, again, this is House Bill 587 is with the amendment will be in the same posture as Senate Bill 534, cross-file of the vice chair, which I believe passed unanimously out of this committee. Yes, vice chair moves. Yeah, we're on 586, which is a cross-file Senate Bill 534, which we passed unanimously. This amendment will just conform 586 to Senate Bill 534 as it passed out of the committee. Why don't you just move? You want to just move to conform House Bill 586 as we passed Senate Bill 534. Okay, second from Mr. Augustine. All in favor of that motion to conform the bills in that manner, raise your hand. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Let's go up to House Bill 489, which is a cross-file of a bill Senator Waldstreicher that we passed earlier in session. Devin, the single staircase building study.
House Bill 489, Maryland Department of Labor, Study on Building Code Requirements for Single Staircase Buildings. This bill requires the Maryland Department of Labor to conduct a study on building code requirements for single staircase buildings in the state and other states and make recommendations regarding potential legislative or regulatory changes to authorize the construction of single staircase buildings up to 6 stories above grade plane in the state for the purpose of increasing the affordable housing supply. By December 1, 2026, Maryland Labor shall report its findings and recommendations to the Governor, the General Assembly, and the standing committees of the General Assembly. The bill takes effect July 1, 2025. There are amendments in the packet. Those amendments conform the House bill to the Senate version that this committee passed.
Okay, the bill was 9-2, the cross-file the first time out for everybody's reference. Okay, Senator Augustine has moved to conform 489 to 436 as passed by this committee, second from Senator Brooks. Here, why don't we, let's do a roll call. It was a 9-2 vote on the way out. Let's just make everything.
All right, Senator Kagan?
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Augustine? Yes. Senator Augustine, yes. Senator Gallion? No. Senator Gallion, no. Senator Watson? Yes. Senator Watson, yes. Senator Attar? Yes. Senator Attar, yes. Senator Brooks? Yes. Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Carrizo?
Yes.
Senator Carrizo, yes. Senator Hester? Yes. Senator Hester, yes. Senator Washington? Yes. Senator Washington, yes. Senator Simonero? Senator Simonero, yes. Senator Feldman?
Yes, bill carries 10-1. Let's next go to Chair Barnes' bill, House Bill 477. Stacy?
House Bill 477, State Department of Education, Family Child Care Homes and Child Care Centers Regulatory Analysis. This bill requires the Maryland State Department of Education to conduct a thorough analysis of the state's regulatory requirements for child care facilities. MSDE must submit, 1, by January 1, 2026, an interim report, and by September 1, 2026, a final report on the results to the Governor and the General Assembly. I think there's 2 amendments being offered. The first is in your packet on page 7 from Senator Gallion, and this requires MSDE to consult with specified stakeholders in conducting the analysis. And Senator Brooks has a conceptual amendment because it isn't here yet. I think he's going to have to explain it because I only have numbers here in front of me.
Sure, that amendment, on page 5, line 20, it's going to change the implementation to reporting, and the date will be from January 1, 2026 to September 1, 2025. We want to get everything in this legislative cycle. And page 5, line 23, change the implementation to reporting there as well. And the date would be changed from September 1, 2026 to January 1, 2026.
So I would just note that your trunk, I mean, you asked them to do this incredible analysis, compare to other states and do whatever, and now you want an interim report like 3 months after it has been started. Is that going to be sufficient time for them to do what you've asked them to do if you move those implementation dates?
Okay, I could speak to the sponsor again, but they were trying to get everything in.
Right, so I mean, I just want to know, I mean, I understood the concerns. The question was, this is an analysis. It's not a requirement that they implement anything that they see. We're taking a look, they're making a determination. So again, that only gives 3 months, and you don't know how long it's going to take to constitute to get started. So the interim report would be 3 months after the date that it would become effective, which is July 1st.
I see, right. Okay.
I think that is why the initial report was January 1, 2026. That gives them 6 months roughly to get up and start doing things. So it's up to you whether, if you want to pursue this amendment. I'm just giving you the blow by blow.
Okay, all right. We'll report back to you on that one.
Yeah, what's the other, I'm sorry, the other amendment was?
The other amendment was Senator Gallion on page 7 of your packet, and it required MSDE to consult with specified stakeholders in conducting the analysis.
Are we not?
I'm sorry?
Is this being held or slowed down or no?
Right now, we just had a discussion about one amendment.
Yeah. So on this amendment, it simply adds child care experts and consult with MSDE for the study. And I believe we should have received an email from the bill sponsors saying they're good with this.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, just to clarify, back to you, Senator Brooks, yeah, because Senator Augustine, I want to be clear. Do you need more time to get back to us about whether you want to push that amendment?
Well, I can just withdraw that amendment and just go with Senator Gallion.
Okay, so the only amendment on the table then will be Senator Gallion. So, okay, you've moved the amendment, a second from the vice chair. Discussion, questions about the Gallion amendment? Okay. Okay, we had a motion and a second. All in favor of the Gallion amendment, raise your hand. All opposed, motion carries unanimously. We have House Bill 477 as amended in front of us. Is there a motion? Senator Gallion moves favorable. Senator Watson, second. Discussion? Okay, all in favor of House Bill 477 as amended by the Gallion Amendment, raise your hand. All opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Let's next go, Devin, to House Bill 376.
So I made a mistake yesterday. When I brought this bill up and the committee voted it, you voted it favorable. It actually needs favorable with amendments to conform the House bill to the Senate bill.
This is
House Bill 376, Maryland Cybersecurity Council membership alterations.
House Bill 376. So do you have is there an amendment now you're going to put on the table?
There is an amendment that would conform the two bills, the House bill to the Senate bill as amended.
What does the amendment do?
The amendment struck the two additional representatives designated by the system with due consideration of geographic diversity and substituted the Dean of the University of Maryland's Global Campus, School of Cybersecurity and IT, and added two representatives designated by the Chancellor of the University of Maryland College Park.
Senate bill passed unanimously out of this committee?
I believe it did. Let me double check.
Well, no, we're conforming House Bill 376 to the bill that we passed unanimously.
Unanimously.
Senator Hester, you were involved with this. Yeah.
So if you recall, the committee put onto the Senate bill two additional members that were appointed by the University of Maryland system, that with due consideration to geographic diversity. And basically the House struck the due consideration with geographic diversity language and added an additional member, the Dean of the University of Maryland's School of Global Campus, School for Cybersecurity and IT.
Yesterday that was fine.
You did. The committee decided that that was fine.
Okay.
So then
We went with that yesterday, and then we moved the Senate bill unanimously. So this would conform the House bill to the Senate bill.
I think that's the right thing to do.
Do you want to move to conform the House
To
bill?
conform the bill.
Okay, Senator Hester's moved to conform the bill, the one we passed yesterday, the cross file. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, motion carries. Let's next go to House Bill 147, Stacy. Delegate Wu.
House Bill 147, County Boards of Education, Student Technology Use Policy Requirements. This bill requires each local board of education to develop and adopt a policy on the use of personal electronic devices, including smartphones, tablets, laptops, smartwatches, or smart glasses during school hours. The policy must include a limitation on the use of a smartphone or a device connected to a smartphone during instructional time. A policy developed in accordance with the bill must be published on the website of each local board of education and each public school student handbook. The policy may not prohibit a student from using a student's smartphone or device connected to a smartphone for various health, IEP, or other instructional purposes. The bill does not apply to a local board that has an existing policy on the use of a personal electronic devices during school hours that includes a limitation on the use of a smartphone or device connected to a smartphone during instructional time. There's one amendment offered by the chair on page 3, and this would conform this bill to the bill passed by the Senate.
The Benson one.
The Benson bill.
That's all I was wondering.
That was, the two bills are different,
That's good.
and they're not cross files.
Right, so we're just conforming this to the Benson bill. Remember, we had this all these cell phone bit, all that. So, okay, is there a motion to conform this to the Benson bill? Okay, any discussion about that? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of that motion, raise your hand. All opposed, motion carries. We'll next go to House Bill 71.
Move favorable as amended.
Second.
Okay, on which one? House Bill, which one?
147.
Yeah, well, I thought the motion to conform, okay.
Oh, my
We
bad.
I think that motion covered that we were conforming to the Benson bill. So House Bill 147 is passed. Okay, House Bill 71, this is the one that fiscal note was reduced from 500,000 to 50, and it was a 138 to 1 vote in the House. That said, there was a hold. And are there amendments on this one, Stacy?
I have not been offered any amendment.
Okay, so, okay, we'll just, we can discuss, we can take a vote. Senator Washington?
Check and find out what happened. I know we ordered the amendment. I'll describe. So when I looked at Yeah, so there's nowhere where there is a special grant assistance program like this for any specific topic. There is, however, an existing field trip program to museums that are of cultural interest. And so my amendment is saying that would basically strike the bill and add educational programming to the existing, program that's in state law. I'm asking my staff now where the amendment was. We did request it, but I sent you the language that I was proposing. So that's what I'd like to do. I can't support it, and I would recommend that we not pass it in its current form. It's not consistent with anything that we've, ever done. And I would, yeah, so.
Okay, well, here, why don't let's wait to see if your amendment pops up from staff, because I think we need a document. We need a document, huh? Sure, absolutely.
Okay. So last year, we had we took up the Stop the Hate Act from last year. So having Holocaust education has always been important. And according to MSDE in 2019, they announced the plans to enhance and expand Holocaust education. And so this is already being done. Again, in my opinion, this is something that we're impinging on MSDE to get right, especially in the era of Blueprint when we fought so hard to get that funding. But the specificity of putting money aside that can only be used to fund this specific thing is concerning to me, because, this is important, but it is as important as African American studies, or is as important as other subgroups that have had unique experiences in this country. So I personally, will be voting red on this unless something substantially changes.
Okay, anybody else want to weigh in on this piece of legislation or the conceptual amendment? We don't have anything in writing. Vice Chair Kagan, then we'll go to Senator Augustine.
Thank you. So first off, thank you, Senator Washington.
I offer it only if there's an interest to move it, but generally as drafted.
Okay, Vice Chair.
If this is value added. So I think these are hard. You guys may or may not remember that I don't love curricular mandates. I don't like singling out, and yet that's what we've been doing, whether it's been reparations or Holocaust Day, and there's stuff that we've been doing. So I just pulled up the budget really quickly. This is a $50,000 program. National Blacks in Wax in our budget got $42,256. The Reginald Lewis Museum is $26,340. This is in one portion, and this isn't capital. I would guess, and I don't know this, but I would guess that there's more money in the capital budget for both, because they're both, important museums. I've been to both. And Reginald Lewis, I only went to a couple years ago, and it was fantastic. So just for whatever that's worth, I thought I would add those facts while going through the budget.
Okay, I'll just make one observation. And, the amendment we can discuss. I think at this point, given the nature, obviously Ways and Means passed 138 to 0. I think an amendment effectively, kind of kills the bill. Like if you don't like it, then you just, to me, either vote red or yes. I'm not sure sending it back to the Ways and Means Committee. I'd have to see your language. So there's kind of a philosophical issue, but I'm not sure if the amendment sending it back to the Ways and Means Committee on Monday night is going to.
Open to doing something with the concept, but again, I would just vote against the bill.
Well, that's I guess what I'm saying is I think it should be sort of either support it or you don't. I think sending something back, because it's going to have to go back to the floor and then go back to Ways and Means. But I'm open to some pushback on that concept. So we're going to go to Senator Augustine.
Yep. So bringing in and discussing like reparations as it relates to this, it's just so wrong. I mean, that is a study that we did, which is entirely different than this. I'm not exactly sure. And because I really wasn't even going there. I mean, I'm just trying to deal with this right that's in front of us. So, but separately though, there's a may and then there is a shall. Why do we have a may and then a shall? As we have been working so hard on may languages, consistency of may, and things like that.
Okay, Stacy, maybe you could address the
So the first
drafting.
may is on page 2 in line 5. A local school system may apply to the department for a grant. So this is an election
Am I in the wrong one?
to participate, House Bill
I
71.
might be in the wrong one.
And a local school system may use a grant only for Holocaust-related teaching materials or teacher training. And then there's $50,000 included in the budget for the program. So a
The
school-
original language, shall, and then it was amended to may,
There
or
has
it's
been
all?
no change with that. It was the governor shall include in the annual budget bill an appropriation of $50,000. It was originally $500,000 that was stricken. And then the other stricken language was no local school system shall receive more than $50,000 as a grant from the program. So that was also stricken. So essentially, it's an elective grant program.
And so the only thing that I would say, folks from the committee, a lot of programs and a lot of shalls were removed this year. A lot of them were. I mean, I'm surprised that we would have a shall. I mean, just kind of given the way that things have been going. It's just an observation.
Okay. Senator Washington, Senator Hester, your light was on. Did you? Yes. Okay, Senator Washington.
So this bill creates a new section, section -135. In section -7134, which is where I would amend it, there's currently a program for Museum of Cultural Import, and it is a shall $500,000 grant program to local school systems for field trips to the United States Holocaust Museum, the National Museum of African American History, the Jewish Museum of Maryland, and the Reginald Lewis Museum. So what my, in an attempt to, again, if people were interested, you know, in moving some form of educational programming in these areas, my bill was putting it into this part of the code to create materials where the curators of these museums could create materials associated with these field trips. So we already have a $500,000 allocation for field trips in this area.
Is that a shall or a may?
It's a shall.
Okay.
It hasn't been changed.
Okay, it's a different shall. So, no, I appreciate it. No, I mean, look, I don't want you to misinterpret. I mean, okay, anybody else want to weigh in on the bill? Okay, Senator, okay, question from Senator Hester, then we'll take comment from Senator Attar.
Sorry,
Senator
maybe to
Hester.
jump in. I was just trying to remind myself what happened with Senator Kramer's bill from last year. Did we passed that and it like went over and?
Passed in the Senate, but it did not pass in the House.
And how is that different than this one?
It's substantially different.
Okay, never.
One was about anti-hate. This is about curriculum. It's a little bit different.
So this is about a grant program to give to that local school systems can apply to for teacher training or materials related to teaching the Holocaust. That is what this is about. The Museums of Cultural Import is a grant program to local school systems for any related expenses for student field trips to all museums of cultural import.
Let's go to Senator Attar, and then honestly, with respect to the other shall amendment, I'd just say either, you know, if we're going to take a vote, just let's vote it up or down. Okay, Senator Attar.
So Stacy said most of what I was about to say. I actually sponsored the cross-file of that museum bill, and it's very different than this. That's for students to go. My understanding is the reason why this is needed is there are many teachers, Maryland in general is very low on the line of Holocaust education, and there are many teachers that have asked for additional Holocaust education so they can then go and appropriately teach it. I was told that MSD is coming out with changes in the near future and teachers are asking, related to this, and teachers are asking for that additional training. So that's what I was told why this is necessary, and I do think it's necessary.
Can we make it all?
So I move the bill favorable.
Okay, we'll just take a vote. Got a motion from Senator Tar, a second from Senator Augustine. I mean, you can, if you want to do you want to press your amendment? I mean,
It's more of just why, like, teachers ask for more information on a whole range of areas, right? And this is one very significant. So should it be on, World War II? Should it be on, I mean, this is like one area, whereas I think my amendment, if we, chose to do it, is a broader area of a broader experiences of these impacted groups, of groups that have experienced significant trauma and genocide, and so I think it's very different. And again, not that we don't do new things, but this is a really, really new and narrow type of grant program, and we just we don't do that. So would it be best to learn when students go on these field trips to have some materials and training for the teachers that are going on these field trips, or for the curators to produce materials that the kids can take home or they can go with them so they understand what they're seeing? I mean, to me, that's where I would think.
Well,
to simply just create a grant program and then 50.
Okay, well, I mean, everybody's making their point. That's why we're here. I think we understand your position. Okay, is there anybody else before? I would just say we take a vote. I mean, I don't know how else to resolve it. Either you're yes or no. How about that? We're allowed to do that here, Okay. Okay, we had a motion from Senator Tar, a second from Senator Augustine. Lamoria, just yes or no?
All right, Senator Kagan.
The motion is on the bill.
Correct. That's it.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Augustine? Yes. Senator Augustine, yes. Senator Gallion? Yes. Senator Gallion, yes. Senator Watson? Yes. Senator Watson, yes. Senator Attar? Yes. Senator Attar, yes. Senator Brooks? Yes. Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Carozza? Yes. Senator Carozza, yes. Senator Hester? Yes. Senator Hester, yes. Senator Washington? No. Senator Washington, no. Senator Salmoneer? Yes. Senator Salmoneer, yes. Senator Feldman?
Yes, bill carries 10-1. Okay, one other bill that's not on the list. We have a Prince George's local bill. It's actually Montgomery, Prince George, but it only really impacts Prince George's House Bill 1470. And we now have a letter from both Montgomery and Prince George's. So in lieu of a formal hearing, I've asked Senator Augustine to just sort of a de facto hearing, just to describe what House Bill 1470 is, and then we can move this local Prince George's piece of legislation forward. So with that, Senator Augustine, if you could.
Thank you so very much. This is a piece of legislation that came across late, but seeks to really, and it's a local bill. It's restricted into Prince George's County, and it pertains to the critical area and making sure that the entities who are responsible for basically the regulation of it, of violations, that they do so in an appropriate way. What occurred is that there was a situation where there was a violation, but then the violation was not properly recorded as a lien, and there was a transfer of property, and so the purchaser, because it wasn't there, they couldn't see the fact that there was this outstanding liability. And so there was a breakdown in that. And so what this piece of legislation seeks to do is to just basically hold the purchaser in that very, very sort of narrow situation harmless in that specific situation. And we have a delegation letter, but within that delegation letter, we also have a request for this to sunset in 2 years. And so that's the bill and what we as Prince George's are asking for a favorable vote on.
Okay. Okay, do we have all that, Stace? April?
The pages that were just passed out are a reprint with the Prince George's County requested amendments. Specifically, those amendments go to the last page of the bill, adding the sunset provision, and also striking Maryland National Capital Parks and Planning Commission from this sort of retroactive effect language.
Okay, well, let's move those Prince George's amendments first. Okay, Senator Augustine moves those amendments with the sunset, a second from Senator Watson from Prince George's County. Okay, all in favor of those amendments from the Prince George's letter? Okay, okay, thank you. Sure, before we take a vote, Senator Simonero on the local Prince George's delegation bill.
Yeah, I know it's local, but sometimes they go to other counties when you start doing this. So is this, there was a problem that somebody inadvertently got into, and they shouldn't have been held liable, probably, but because of the way the law was written, they are, and this will get them out of it, basically, and then it'll sunset and it won't go going forward. And are they going to fix the problem so this doesn't happen again as well?
Yes, that is a situation for our department of permitting and.
That doesn't need state law.
Exactly. They're the ones who dropped the ball on it if they didn't follow what they were supposed to do.
Okay, we had a motion from Senator Augustine, second from Senator Watson. Any further discussion? All in favor of House Bill 1470 as amended? Raise your hand. All opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Okay, folks, the only other two things we have on the agenda are the two bills that we started a conversation with yesterday, and we'll just talk about it. And if there's an inclination to do something, we'll see. So I would like to get, what happened to Senator Hester? We got to get Senator Hester back here. Okay, see if Senator Hester's can be located. In the meantime, yeah, let's just wait because she's been involved in this reprint and all that.
Sorry, can I take us back to, sorry, I apologize, House Bill 1470, I just, the fiscal note writer just noted a technical error in the bill. Is it all right if I just correct, there's a cross-reference?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, that moves. Okay.
Included in
The technical amendment, that carries unanimously. Okay, now, just, you know, we're gonna start with the BEPS topic, which we started and we got cut off, and then take up the housing bill from the governor. But just maybe Senator Hester, just kind of reframe things a little bit. Maybe you could just, or we're going to let Devin reframe it. We left yesterday, we started a conversation, then we had to go to on the BEPS. We're going to start with the BEPS topic. Okay, we'll leave the governor's bill for next. So Devin, since yesterday, and again, we got folks here in the audience this time. We've got some time. You know, if questions come up, just kind of refresh everybody's memory. We walked through exemptions, we walked through the topics, Montgomery County issue, et cetera, et cetera. Why don't you just kind of refresh everybody's memory where we left things yesterday when we broke to go back to chamber?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, sure.
So when we amend a bill here, so we're amending the bill, a House bill, do they just have to concur or not concur, or does it really go through a whole hearing process?
Well, they'll have options. So we have the House bill, which we may change.
Right.
We will send it back to the House of Delegates.
Right.
In this case, the Environment and Transportation Committee. And they'll have two options.
Right.
They can just concur with what we did and it's done.
Right.
Right, and then they move third reader over there. Or they can ask, they say we don't, and we want a conference committee.
Right.
In this case, we're trying to coordinate with the chair of that committee to, I'm reasonably confident that if we stay somewhat close to the reprint that's in front of us, that the other chamber will concur. So
I guess I was just clarifying.
That's the process.
I guess I was just clarifying, because like my amendment, so we each have, I listened to everyone's concerns, and so, exhales, et cetera, aren't helpful. So I was just clarifying that, the amendment that I was wanting to discuss just kind of miraculously just turned up. But there was a characterization that if we amended the House bill, that it would have to go through this other process. And so I just wanted to clarify on the record that an amendment doesn't necessarily kill a bill, and that it could be seen as, which was kind of implied. So I just wanted to clarify that the bill.
I'll clarify my
So
implication.
that was made,
Right, I understand exactly what you're saying,
Yeah.
but what I'm suggesting is, in this case, it wasn't, I don't think you were consulting with the House on this amendment, so in that case,
I actually was trying to have an opportunity to talk about it, but I just think that when we are offering what our procedures are, that we should just be,
okay, I get your point. I mean, I was trying to deal with how I saw the landscape, and if I was incorrect, then I stand corrected. I'm just saying the timeline here, if we're not working closely with the House, is very, very likely at this point to result in the bill dying. In this case, the same would be true if we weren't consulting with the House counterpart. That's all really my point is. Okay, and I appreciate, look, I don't mind being called out or anything. It's all good. I'm good. So let's get back to the BEPS bill. So Devin, just again, Sarah Hester, did you want to? We'll start with Devin, and then we'll just have a conversation. I'm sorry? Yeah. Yeah, okay, So
Senator Hester has provided you with the most latest reprint on your laptops. That's emailed to you. It actually supersedes in part the reprint copies that I have here. This is the latest, greatest on your laptops.
Take your time and read through.
So I believe that I might be able to simplify this a little bit for you, for the committee. The issues that, as the chair said, were on the table were exclusions, were study language, were exclusions and exemptions, was grandfathering in county programs that already exist. Montgomery County's program already exists, and what the breadth and depth of those exclusions were. And the committee asked whether the exclusions could be placed all in the definition section.
Devin, it hasn't come through yet. You're saying it came from Senator Hester, or did it come from you?
It came from Senator Hester, and 3:24 p.m.
Maybe let's make sure everybody.
Sent to public or confidential emails?
So why don't we do
Public.
this? Why don't I hand out the reprints we have? I
We
believe
got
that the
hard copy,
changes-
old style, hard copy reprints, because we're on top of it. This committee.
So I believe that Senator Hester will be able to explain any technical differences between the reprint that you have and the reprint that the senator shared with you earlier. But it's because of the way that the legislation and the statute is drafted, the exclusions, exemptions appear in different places because that's the way it appears in the various articles of the code, the environment and the public utilities article. But let me explain where, in the latest version, what the exclusions are. The exclusions are exempted. First of all, state buildings are covered buildings. So state buildings are not excluded from the BEPS program. State buildings are not excluded. Not excluded. They are covered buildings. So the energy use and greenhouse gas emissions related to the production of steam for sterilization in a healthcare facility, lab, assisted living, nursing, and life sciences facility is excluded. That's on page 4 of 21. The energy use and greenhouse gas emissions related to emergency backup power for sterilization in a healthcare facility, lab, assisted living facility, nursing and life sciences facilities is exempted. Sensitive compartmented information facility operated by an agency or contractor of the United States General Services Administration, DOD, NSA, Homeland Security, any other intelligence office, or a state-level sensitive agency. So the State Department of Homeland Security would be exempted. Hospitals are exempted. In the new reprint that you have on your computers and perhaps also on the one that you have with you, manufacturing is exempted. Agricultural buildings are exempted. And again, believing in the reprint that you either have on your desk or on your computer, critical infrastructure is exempted. So the manufacturing, hospital, agricultural buildings are all on page 19 of 21. So the definition of critical infrastructure is on page 20 of 21. It may be, again, the latest reprint that you have would be on your laptops or you've been emailed, and that puts critical infrastructure and manufacturing back into the exclusion category of the bill. Critical infrastructure, which is defined as assets, systems, and networks, whether physical or virtual, considered by Homeland Security to be so vital to the United States that their incapacitation or destruction would have a debilitating effect on one of them or following: security, national economic security, national public health or safety. Critical infrastructure includes a hospital, a healthcare facility, a data center as defined by 11239 of the tax article.
Structure include the county emergency services buildings?
That's a good question. I do not believe that they would be covered under the critical infrastructure exemption. Okay, the majority of the rest of the bill has been stricken and has been replaced with study language. And in that study language, which, if you have it on your laptop, would be pages 21 of 21 and then now 22, because they cross over. The study language that is in the bill would have the department conduct an analysis of potential cost and benefits of the building energy performance standards policy options, featuring direct emissions reductions, energy use intensity, or a combination of both, with a description of each scenario, including program design considerations, greenhouse gas emissions reduction potential, direct emissions reduction potential, overall energy savings potential, peak energy savings potential, implementation cost of building owners in the department, life cycle cost of the building and equipment, and cost effectiveness for building owners, and program implementation cost and complexity. So in that analysis that the department would have to do in identifying policy considerations and recommendations, the department would have to make policy considerations and recommendations on the following: calculating an alternative compliance fee for energy use intensity on a covered building owner, recommendations on how to address covered buildings that, despite all available incentives, including avoidance of penalties and fees, would still not achieve greenhouse gas emissions reductions and targets. Recommendations, this is the newest language, recommendations on how to consider certain things that haven't been exempted above, and that would be county-owned buildings, community colleges, emergency facilities, re-looking at manufacturing buildings, and residential buildings, including considerations of tenants and condominium unit owners, and then calculate benchmarks based upon those recommendations. So those entities that I said in 1 sub B13 of the reprint that's on your computers, 3 has recommendations how to consider county-owned buildings, whether to exempt county-owned buildings, whether to exempt community colleges, whether to exempt emergency facilities, whether to exempt the manufacturing buildings that are actually exempt in the bill, and whether to exempt residential buildings, including considerations of tenants and condominium unit owners. So if you are looking at the email that was sent, it's the very last page.
You listed stuff like community college, stuff like, what line is that on?
It did make the printout, great. So it's on the last page of the printout, or it's the very last page. It's B1 III.
Is mine different than the one you're looking at? So we're looking at two different things here.
Senator Hester, while they're getting their computers in order, if you want to,
Well, I've just learned that there shouldn't be very many different changes between the bill on that we were sent on our laptops and the one that's in front of us. The difference is that the one on our laptops went through review, so there are some technical changes that were cleaned up, and the one on our desks did not go through review.
okay. So did everybody hear that? But the
Yes.
document that you have, it's the hard copy, is pretty much it, except that the review process has resulted in some technical modifications that are not reflected in this reprint. So, other than that, substantively, though, the document
Yeah.
is, okay.
And I think that there might be a few changes that I've spotted that didn't make it into this version. But I think we just take a big step back.
The one that I handed you has technical corrections.
If you look at the
so
paper
you're good.
copy, I'm sorry, Senator. So first of all, this is not my bill. I'm just trying to help the committee move it forward.
Let me just give her, she spent a lot of time on this. Yeah, so just the hard copies, with the exception of
copy's
some
good.
technical review stuff, is really the latest iteration with the, okay, yes, Senator Hester, I want to give her a big shout out for the work she's put into this. Go on.
To this departmental bill.
This was a bill that started as a departmental bill with Secretary McElwain in this committee, like, quite some time ago.
So on this departmental bill, as it came over from the House, I think the House did a lot of really good work on it. There was still, because it had the alternative compliance payments in it, that I was hearing from many folks, there was still a really large fiscal impact on all of our, on all these buildings. And so, in talking with the House, we agreed that it might not quite be ready for prime time, and therefore we were going to try to maintain the exemptions that they had done and try to keep as many stakeholders happy while taking a majority of it and saying, hey, why don't we wait till we get this benchmarking data that's already coming out and just looking at the actual energy intensity under these three scenarios and try to make sure that we have a program that really, is well thought through. I almost think of this as like three phases. Like in 2022, we established a Climate Solutions Now Act, which put our stake in the ground. And now this bill, we're kind of adding some meat to the bones. We're adding in, the fact that Montgomery County already has a program, and so we're going to say that they can go ahead with that program, and we'll learn from that, and we are learning from it. That's where the kind of initial figures have come from. And then we're adding a study saying, hey, we've now looked at this. We got these three scenarios where it's direct greenhouse gas emissions, energy intensity, or a combination of the two. We're not, there's not readiness maybe to move forward with a really let's look at these three options based on where we got back, and then we're going to come back in a couple years and really have a much cleaner bill, which we can vote on right before we move into the regulatory process in 2020 in January of 2027. And so I've tried really hard to work in step with the House and to keep everybody happy. I think there's something in here for everybody right now, but not everybody is perfectly happy. And we've got a lot of the stakeholders here we could hear from. But that's basically where we are, Mr. Chair. And if we don't do anything, you know, Montgomery County is very confused about how they stand. They've got a really good program. People like their program. I think it's going to have really good environmental impacts. So we need to make sure that we just set Montgomery free and say, hey, you are free to do your own thing. Well, and we can learn from you as we move forward with our regulatory process in 2027.
Okay, but I don't want it to be all about just that. I mean, the other parts of this, we've got, I think there's some support for this bill as drafted from some of the business community, BOMA and some others, you know, and I think this is trying to get, I think we, just candidly, there's still a lot of questions about the cost of it all. Like, what's the best approach? What's the most cost-effective approach? Thus, study language that really analyzes at this point that we really didn't have when the bill originally in 2022 was passed. And Maryland Department of Environment is essentially captive to the statutory language that existed in that bill. And so that's kind of where we're at with that. Let's take some questions. We'll start with Senator Watson, Senator Tarr, Senator Carrozza, and then we'll make some decisions here. Okay, Senator Watson, you're first up.
Thank you. So you said there were no longer any of the alternate payments pieces in this bill?
There is a fee in here, if that's what you're asking. There is a fee for $100 for every building that is over 35,000 square feet. And I believe the building owners are okay with paying that $100 fee. What that does is it actually supports the program, the benchmarking that's already happening.
Okay, so that's a one-shot deal to fund the program.
But it's $100 a year.
Because they made the mistake of building a bigger building.
I am sorry. It's not
I
my
accept-
bill.
I accept that.
Not my bill.
Montgomery County being exempted out. So you said a couple times.
Not
that they're-
exempted out, they're grandfathered in the program they've already had in place, so.
So does that mean that we're going to have access to their data as we're getting the data from across the state to make a good decision? Okay. And the other question that I had was about the backup generator. Is that included or excluded?
Moria. So backup generation, emergency backup power for sterilization in healthcare facility, lab, assisted living, nursing, and life science facilities that energy use is excluded. Critical infrastructure is excluded. So if it's a critical infrastructure, as I read that definition.
Does that include data centers?
It does.
It does.
It does.
Okay.
Devin, I just wonder if we look at the actual line 8 on page 4.
Of course.
I believe it says critical infrastructure, except for any critical infrastructure identified under 101H122 of the Public Utilities article. Data centers. Data centers.
You are correct. You are correct. Data centers are covered buildings.
So back to my question. We spent a lot of effort and fought back a lot of pressure to make sure backup generators could be used with data centers as they had to function 24 hours a day. And I think last year's bill said that, I thought it said a generator was considered critical infrastructure.
I believe, obviously I wasn't here last year, but I do believe that that's the bill that this committee and this.
So we need to fix
passed.
that. I think we need to fix that. We need to
Okay.
fix that.
Okay, well, let's put some issues here. The other, just one other point on, and discussing all this, of course, is if we don't pass any bill, then all these exemptions that we're talking about, you know, go away with them. So that's, if you, hospitals or whatever you're talking, of interest to you, then those exemptions are gone, and we'll be back to sort of square one as far as the implementation of the Climate Solutions Act. Senator Tarr, you're up next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a separate amendment, and I think it was sent out, but Senator Hester included it in her reprint. So I'm going to withdraw it. My amendment was to include the residential occupants, tenants, and condominium owners in the study. And so it's in the reprint, so I'm going to withdraw my amendment, my specific amendment that was separate.
And next go to Senator Carrozza. So that, what was an amendment is now part of the study. Senator Carrozza.
So I think if we could just have a refresher of, before we even get into the exemptions, what are the requirements right now under BEPS? Like, going back to, we're right now working into exemptions, but just so we all understand, what currently is the law and how does it apply? You know, I know it's X number of feet and, you know, and so we can have an idea of what I'm trying to first understand the universe before we start talking about all the exemptions.
Mr. Chair, why don't we have the Maryland Department of the Environment join me at the table and they can go back.
Okay, where's our MDE experts? I see some in them. Just give us, if you don't mind, just truncated, big picture, you know, how the program works, what buildings are covered, and what are the implications of being covered under current law without, again, some of the exemptions we've talked about, okay? So tell us who you are, and then you could, whoever wants to take the lead and just kind of big picture, refresher, 101, BEPS 101, as it currently exists in state law in Maryland.
Happy to. Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. Chris Hoagland, I'm the Director of the Air and Radiation Administration at the Department of the Environment. So big picture, Climate Solutions now established the BEPS regulation. It is a regulation on buildings that are 35,000 square feet or larger with a series of exceptions. Those buildings would begin benchmarking their energy use. That means they're measuring and reporting their energy use in 2025, this year. There's a 5-year benchmarking period from 2025 through 2030. And then there are performance standards that begin in 2030 and phase in through 2040. These performance standards are for reducing the amount of greenhouse gas emissions they produce on site and improving their energy use intensity, which is a measure of energy efficiency, energy used per square foot. There is an alternative compliance payment option for greenhouse gas standards, so a building can choose whether to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions down to the standard or make a payment for greenhouse gas emissions above the standard.
Okay, Senator Carrozza or anybody else, questions for okay, guys, just any other questions, just put it on the table. We do have a reprint here. There are questions. I just want to make sure everybody understands. And again, we have been in close consultation with the House, so I do think there's a pretty good shot, no guarantee ever that, you know, this document would hopefully be concurred with on the other side if we were inclined to move it, but not forcing anybody anything here. So any further just conversation, discussion, comments, thoughts? Yes, Senator Augustine.
They're here.
Yeah.
So can you all just, you know, give your thoughts on where this is at this point? I'm talking to the MDE folks.
Introduce yourself.
Thank you, Senator Augustine. Mr. Chairman, Adam Ortiz, Deputy Secretary at MDE. This is a big, complicated issue, clearly some time in the making, and this is a big year. The two chambers chose two different paths for taking it up. The House was focused on implementation and moving forward. The Senate, working with Senator Hester, has been focused on pumping the brakes, studying, getting more detailed information before proceeding. And we've been talking throughout the day, and right now there's a very busy bill that's going to be difficult for the department to carry forward, because on the one hand, we're expected to implement a number of measures and then also expected to measure and try to define what the program should be like. And with limited resources, it's tough to do both of those things. So, you know, we would, you know, welcome a conversation about how we make it manageable for the department. We want to address concerns, and we've had lots of concerns, you know, raised by stakeholders and industry, and I think the department has been very responsive, but we can't be building the ship and then planning the architecture of the ship at the same time.
So I understand that. If there are certain things, though, that we are fairly certain about exempting, wouldn't that make sense to, if those are policy decisions that we're ready to make, wouldn't it make sense to just go ahead and get that done sooner than later?
Thank you for the question, Senator. Jeremy Baker, Director of Government Relations for MDE. I think the thing that we're struggling with and the thing that we have challenge with is, there is BEPS under current law, right, including with penalties that are much higher than the alternative compliance that the third reader of the House version contemplated. And so right now we're in the position where we just promulgated regulations this past December. The exemptions that are currently in, the House version as well as the version in front of you would require regulatory changes. And Chris can talk more about how each of those exemptions results in us needing to revisit those regs. So we're in the position of implementing the existing regs, revising the regs according to these exemptions, and doing a study in which we would completely rethink how BEPS works and redoing the regulations and rolling it out a third time.
Okay, I do have to sort of say, though, we wouldn't be here if, like, the idea of stopping, pumping the brakes and all that kind of thing, we wouldn't be here if people were persuaded that the law that passed in 2022 was like a great thing. Part of, I think, the push here is there's revisiting that maybe we went too far too fast without really knowing everything we need to know, even this reference to Montgomery, because that program is generally thought of as having been, I'll be honest with you, a little bit more thought through and thoughtful, and maybe does some things the statewide stuff doesn't do. And so I think we're here in part. So when I hear it's burdensome to write new regs, like we have agencies doing regs, that to me is not like a compelling argument for us stopping the brakes and, and revisiting and doing some studies that maybe should have been done in 2022, quite frankly. So I just put that out there for just kind of discuss or conversation or thought. So Senator Hester, back to you.
I just want to say that like 24 hours ago, 36 hours ago, MDE was fine with this study. In fact, they drafted most of it. And so they've had a complete 180 turn in the past 24 hours. I would also say that the bill that we got from the House, industry would say is a $16 billion tax. And we are not in the position to pass a $16 billion tax right now. And so this is where we're at. I think most people are not terribly happy, but the House bill as it came in, I don't think we could have moved out of the Senate. And so I've done my best on this departmental bill, and if the department wants to go down as passing a $16 billion tax, that is their call.
Okay, well, I think it's also just, again, another thought is the alternative, I keep harping on it, is to do nothing. And then we're back to a program for them to implement that clearly there's a lot of unease with. Again, we would have just sort of moved forward and you'd be implementing, but again, there's clearly some resistance in the General Assembly to doing that. And so that's where we are if we don't pass anything. Okay, that's the alternative. If we don't pass something here that flies in the House, then we're back to just full implementation under the status quo. Some of these exemptions go away and we're just going down the road. And so this, I keep harping on the alternatives. These are some binary decisions we're going to have to make here. So anybody else want to weigh in? Senator Gallion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your comments there. Appreciate that. In the original Climate Solutions Bill, there were exemptions. Like schools were in there, right? So if at that logic, you say, well, the schools can't afford it, so that was put in as an exemption. These other exemptions are other group. Like one thing is very big, especially in my district, hospitals. We've heard from them. So I'd really like to see something move just to help out with stuff like that. I think we sent some numbers over on how they would struggle with that, and that's critical. Our hospital, we have a huge issue with stuff like funding, ER wait time, stuff like that. So when you put more and more on stuff like that, it's hurting. So I really hope we can move something here to kind of chip. I realize, if I could wave a wand, I would remove all that BEP stuff, but I can't do. Obviously, there's not the support in the House for that. So I think whatever we can make better and more workable would be a very good thing at this point.
Okay. Any other comments? Otherwise, we have a couple options. Again, we can do nothing. We can move the reprint. We could, Senator Hester, just to get the conversation going, would you want to move this reprint set of amendments, subject to some potential tweaks before we, like technical or otherwise, or do you think it's not ready for prime time to do that?
Oh, I think it's ready.
Okay, well, that's,
I'd move the reprint with, and we can amend the reprint.
Yes, okay. Second.
okay, we have a second from Senator Gallion. Let's do some roll call on this. Again, this is an important topic, and I don't want to, again, jam anybody. If somebody needs to go red, that's fine, too. This is the amendments, just the amendments to the bill. Yeah, and we can talk. Well, let's go Senator Augustine first.
This is is this adding exemptions or it's keeping the ones that came over from the House and then adding additional to the study? That's what this is doing.
Correct.
So we're staying with the House exemptions, but we are adding stuff to the study language in effect.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, Vice Chair Kagan. Vice
Thank
Chair
you.
Kagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There are a lot of stakeholders in the room that we haven't heard from, and I have great respect for our friends at MDE, but I see NIOP, and I see Sierra Club, and I see MEA, and I see hospitals and all that. It might be, I don't think we have time to, because we're supposed to be on the floor already, but I guess what I'd say, if we're mostly going to take this to the floor, if the votes are there, and if there's the opportunity to still weigh in or tweak, I guess I would like to publicly say for this one senator, not speaking on behalf of the committee, I see Mako now in the room, if there are suggestions, I mean, can you
Well, we
just
don't
guide?
have, there's
can you
no
just
bells.
guide?
I don't have, anybody heard any bells? Okay, so we got, until we hear, when we hear bells, we're going to have to act.
Okay,
but-
and we also have another bill on this
Well,
voting list.
you know, I mean, that's,
So-
you know, where we're at. I mean.
So I wonder if you could guide us on whether there's a quick, this group thinks it's fabulous, or this group just wants one little thing, or I don't know if that's feasible, either now in this setting or down the road. But there are folks who care a lot about this and will be directly affected.
Okay, well, let's, okay, why don't we do this? I know, I see our hospitals are represented here. Do you want to just come up and I assume you liked what's in the bill that came from the House
You're
when it
glad
comes
you're
out?
exempted, you're good,
So,
Natasha?
okay, so, yeah, we don't need a large
Let's just do it
explanation,
quick.
because we can see who's in the room.
Maryland Hospital Association is
Who's it?
good, they're glad they're exempted.
Bills. Well, here's the thing is, I have a message.
NIOP.
I have a message from the Senate President saying, don't rush, so
Okay.
let's just.
NIOP, Tom Ballantyne is here, and he's saying he's giving a thumbs up. Okay,
For
This bill.
the reprint, for the.
The reprint.
The reprint.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to see where, if there are problems before we vote. Mako? I didn't hear. Neutral on the reprint. Neutral on the reprint, fantastic. Montgomery County,
Well, we know where Montgomery.
I just want everyone, I'm just doing the Garrett Fitzgerald.
In favor of the reprint, there's, I believe, 2 technical changes that are not shown in the reprint there, but otherwise we're.
Technical changes, okay. Sierra Club, MEA, do you guys have anything you want to add? Okay, MEA, Maryland Energy Administration is copacetic. Sierra Club has something they want to say. Are you thumbs up?
Just thumbs up
Okay,
or
that's up
thumbs
to you.
down. Just
Brian.
thumbs up.
Okay, well, we're not going to do a rehearing, but Josh, you know, here's your opportunity to say I assume you have concerns.
30 seconds.
I'm just assuming, I don't know.
Thank you. First, I just want to commend MDE that worked extremely hard on implementation of this understaffed during the transition from the previous administration. Josh Tolkien from the Maryland Sierra Club. I do just want to recognize that MDE worked incredibly hard in the transition understaffed between the administrations, working to do public outreach on this incredibly challenging and important bill. So a couple flags. If the goal to study is to potentially do a redesign, are we going to do EUI? Are we going to do GHG? Are we going to do both? That could change the economics. Who's vulnerable? Sure. Sorry.
Here, okay.
Yep. How's this?
Okay, Madam Vice Chair. Okay, why don't we, let's go.
Yep.
Okay, go on.
If the goal of the study is to assess if we want to move forward on EUI or greenhouse gas or a combination, that could change which industries are benefiting, which industries would be struggling, which industries might need to be exempted. And so we would question whether or not exempting all of these industries while studying to exempt more, even in this copy it exempts manufacturing while studying whether manufacturing should be exempted, would seem to be continuing a path of slowly moving towards exempting everybody from participating in this program, which would make it slightly less effective. Secondly, our biggest, most significant concern is MDE's funding and capacity to do this study. There has been a history of asking them to do a lot, sometimes with language such as make considerations for, which one person might think it means X and they might interpret as Y, and then everyone gets mad. So I would strongly recommend that we find sufficient funding for the quality of the study that is expected of them, especially because the current law still does require them to implement this program as CSNA plus the budget amendment intended.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, the only other, I know AstraZeneca, I mentioned them yesterday. Did you get an opportunity to review? We cited some specific language in there that we thought covered life sciences and.
It has been reinstated and it looks great.
Laura, can you speak?
Okay.
Yes. AstraZeneca is good with the reprint. There was some language that was taken out that was cross-referenced and that has been reinstated and it looks good. So,
okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Dolores Sanchez representing.
Dolores Sanchez of Ficalche on behalf of AstraZeneca for the record. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
Okay, we got to get that in there. Again, we're trying to coordinate with the House. We took exemptions, a lot of study language. I think moving forward, we want to make sure this program is right. You know, we take the Montgomery County situation unique because they be in conflict with state law. So with all that, we had a motion on the reprint amendments, and I think there was there a second from Senator Augustine? So let's do a roll call on the amendments, and then we'll take up the bill. And we have to still go through this process all the way to the House. So this is, you know, this may or may not work out.
Maybe we just ask a
Sure.
question.
Sure.
Because we're going to vote on the amendment, then vote on the bill. But the sponsor of the amendment was open to additional changes in the reprint. How does that work?
Well, I think because of the timeline, we can talk of, you know, floor amendments are definitely still going to be in play. And, you know, what we probably, don't forget, tomorrow we're in session. We may need to take up this other bill from the governor who, you know, we still have to take that up. So we might have to meet before session to do that. So between now and, I'm going to say 1 hour before we start session, we meet, take up the governor's bill or thereabouts. I think we'll probably be in about 11 o'clock tomorrow, I'm told, something like that. Come in here, we deal with the governor's bill one way or another. In the meantime, then we'll also have to go to the floor. So I think there's opportunity to still do some floor amendments and such. And this is a House bill, by the way, so you can do it all the way to third reader. Okay. So I think there's opportunity, but in the meantime, I think we need to get something to the floor or moving. Okay, we're going to take a roll call on the amendments, Moria.
All right, Senator Kagan.
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Augustine. Yes. Senator Augustine, yes. Senator Gallion. Yes. Senator Gallion, yes. Senator Watson. Yes. Senator Watson, yes. Senator Attar.
Yes.
Senator Attar, yes. Senator Brooks. Yes. Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Carozza. Yes. Senator Carozza, yes. Senator Hester. Yes. Senator Hester, yes. Senator Washington. Yes. Senator Washington, yes. Senator Simonaire. Yes. Senator Simonaire, yes. Senator Feldman.
Yes, bill amendments carry unanimously. Senator Hester, you want to move the bill? Second from Senator Augustine. Okay, all in favor of the bill as amended, raise your hand. Oh, we're taking up the bill. Well, tomorrow, maybe, you know, we're going to meet 1 hour before we meet for session, and so we could take it up then and then add that into the mix. Okay, well, yeah, we'll put it out there.
Page 4, line 8, strike except through 4.
Okay, what? Can you talk English to us?
This will ensure that the generators are excluded. The generators for the data centers are excluded. And to do that, page 4, line 8, from except through or, I think does the trick.
Okay, can I just, here, this is what I'm going to suggest since we're trying to collaborate a little with the House. Okay, we'll take that up. I would like to get a little communication with the House a little bit, because it really would be good to know one way or the other. I mean, we could still do that. I'd just like to know, be able to share what the House position would be if we're going beyond what they did, and that could be.
I do.
Yeah.
Right, but just operationally, we just took so much time to work with data centers and the generators, and I think they just need to be one package.
I'm aware, we spent a lot of time on that issue in this committee last session, so,
I second that.
yeah.
His motion.
Okay, so can we hold that motion and second until I have a little conversation with the chair? Just so you'll know, I'll roll it in the mix, and doesn't mean we have to care what the House position is. I'm just saying, you can throw that into the mix when we meet tomorrow.
I defer to my fearless leader.
Okay, so that we have a motion, a second, so we will take it up. Subject to that, can we move the bill or take a vote?
Wait a minute, so clarifying.
What are you clarifying? What do you want?
You're suggesting that we vote final passage on a bill with a pending amendment?
Okay. I mean, we do floor amendments all the time. I think,
But it's a policy, it's a significant enough policy matter. I assume we'd want to talk about it.
okay. He has withdrawn the amendment, subject to the possibility that we could have a floor amendment. We can discuss that even tomorrow before session.
Yeah, just, Devin, from committee counsel standpoint, the language that Senator Watson said, like, can you just confirm what it does and what it will mean and what it will do?
It will then no longer, it will then exclude the backup generation for data centers from the provisions of covered buildings. So it does what the senator would like it to do.
Does it exclude the data center itself, or it's just saying you don't
The
count-
backup generation.
You just don't count the
associated- right.
backup generator
Correct,
at the facility?
at the facility.
As it relates to the greenhouse gas
Correct.
emissions that they're
Correct.
being asked to.
That is correct. If the goal of the committee is to, if the goal of the committee is to exempt all of the data centers, you would have to remove data centers from the definition of critical infrastructure. But the way that I'm doing this on the fly, I believe that that language accomplishes what Senators Gallion and Watson wanted
Okay,
to
one,
accomplish.
again, as part of your homework, let's make sure that the language and everything does what it says, and there's not some unintended consequences here.
Keeping with what, now I'm like where Senator Kagan was. Like, I don't know about doing that. Like, I'm just saying, like.
I wasn't saying we're going to do it. I'm saying can talk about it tomorrow for purposes of a potential
Okay,
floor
fair
amendment.
enough.
That's all
Yeah,
I'm saying.
I'm just saying, I'm just
Yeah.
putting it out there, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right now, that's not in front of us. That was
Right.
not part of the amendments that we adopted, but that's subject to further conversation. So, but right now, we've got the amended version, the packet. We haven't yet taken a vote on the bill. We had a motion, I believe, from Senator Hester and a second from Senator Augustine. So let's do a roll call on the reprint, subject to some technical and further discussions for some possible floor amendments. That's all. I guess we have to leave it there. Okay, with that said, Lamoria.
Senator Kagan.
I'm going to, before I vote, I just want to say that I don't love the idea of significant policy matters being done on the floor. I think if we have any possibility, and even if we have to be pulled off the floor, I think we ought to understand the amendments. I think the Watson-Gallion amendment is really worth talking about, and I don't think we ought to do it on the fly without the 11 of us learning about it and considering it and voting. So with that having been said, for now, I vote yes.
Okay, can I just, before we go any further on that, if we need more time, then we can meet more than an hour before. I mean, we can take the time we need. We're going to meet at 11 o'clock, so we'll make some kind of a decision. If you need time. Well, because we have Monday sine die, so, we could just wait till Monday night and talk about this. I mean, I wish we were not, I mean, that's where we're at, okay? You say, why are we taking it up and talking about it now? Because it's sine die. Okay. Well, we don't have to do anything. I mean, the bill can die and we're good. Okay,
Senator
Senator Augustine's up next.
All right, Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Augustine. Senator Augustine, yes. Senator Gallion. Senator Gallion, yes. Senator Watson. Senator Watson, yes. Senator Attar. Senator Attar, yes. Senator Brooks. Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Carozza. Senator Carozza, yes. Senator Hester. Senator Hester, yes. Senator Washington? Senator Washington, yes. Senator Simoneer? Senator Simoneer, yes. Senator Feldman?
Yes, bill carries. Time to go to the floor.